Situated like a hinge between the northern and southern parts of Italy, Abruzzo, excluding the coastal strip along the Adriatic, is characterized by an imposing system of mountains formed by the highest, steepest massifs in the entire Apennine range. For centuries, an almost insurmountable bulwark, the mountains of Abruzzo have practically isolated the region from the rest of the nation, preserving intact the typical characteristics of its people, the originality of its customs, and the purity of its traditions. Gran Sasso d'Italia, Majella, Conca del Fucino, and Altopiano delle Cinque Miglia are well-known geographical names and references, but they are also indicative of an extremely interesting and spectacular morphological and scenic variety. There was a time, about 100 years before Christ, when Abruzzo represented Italy. Revolting against the authority of Rome, the tribes of the Marsica and the Sannio formed a confederation and made their capital the small city of Corfigno, which was renamed Italia. It was the first time in history that this name was used to indicate the common homeland of the Italic peoples of the peninsula. It is therefore no coincidence that our journey through the mountains of Abruzzo begins in Corfigno, a place that once had great strategic value. Today, this small town in the province of L'Aquila jealously preserves important traces of its past splendor, such as the Basilica of San Pellino. Reconstructed in its present Romanesque style in 1100, after being destroyed by the Saracens and the Hungarians, the basilica sits atop an earlier structure that dates from the 5th century after Christ. Gran Sasso d'Italia and Majella are the Abruzzese binomial par excellence. Tourism, particularly winter tourism, has been extremely successful on both of them, especially in recent years. The huge number of skiers, coming especially from the surrounding regions, find beautiful slopes with descents geared to all levels of skill, an efficient system of lifts, and excellent hotel facilities. With the nearly 3,000 meters of the Corno Grande, the Gran Sasso is the highest mountain group of the entire Apennine chain. With an austere appearance, it is striking in its steepness and the imposing nature of its reliefs, which bear a distinct resemblance to the Dolomites in the Alps. But the sharpness of the landscape is blunted and softened at lower elevations. The mountainsides become less steep, and the rock gives way to slopes covered by meadows and forests. Ideal for horseback riding or bracing excursions on foot, these places offer a chance to rediscover an uncontaminated nature, with fragrances and sensations that have been irremediably suffocated in the city by cement and air pollution. Extending along the slopes of the Gran Sasso for 27 kilometers, at an average elevation of 1,800 meters, is the depression of Campo Imperatore, the ideal destination for winter sports lovers and a refuge in summer for those fleeing the sweltering plains in search of mild temperatures and healthy air. The Majella is the other great Abruzzese massif, which is always cited in conjunction with the Gran Sasso. It is smaller and not quite as high, with the 2,795 meters of Monte Marrone. Of the two, however, the Abruzzese love the Majella, which is considered the mother mountain. From the dawn of time, even before the ice ages, for millennia, people of unknown origin lived here, leaving us numerous traces of their existence. On the Majella, too, it is possible to engage in winter sports, like here at the resort of Campo di Giove. Skiers will find comfortable accommodation and convenient ski lifts. At an altitude of 650 meters, on a spur on the western side of the Majella, is Caramanico Terme, a hot springs resort for taking the cure or for just relaxing, which is known for its mineral, sulfurous, and diuretic waters. According to tradition, Caramanico was founded around the year 1000 by a monk who was a descendant of Charlemagne. It is rich in important medieval, Renaissance, and Baroque churches, with Santa Maria Maggiore standing out among them. But the most charming one is the church of San Tommaso Apostolo, which rises a few kilometers from the village and seems to have been constructed on a foundation that dates back to 45 AD. Other centers of particular importance are Ovindoli, at the foot of Monte Sirente, and the Rocche Plateau. This is a particularly good spot for cross-country skiing. While in summer, the flowering meadows and fragrant air offer a standing invitation to go on pleasant excursions. But the most famous spot for winter sports in Abruzzo is Roccaraso. Skiers from all over Italy and abroad converge on this location, attracted by the beauty of the landscape and the many slopes where beginners can calmly develop their technique, or the most experienced devotees can show off their abilities. Modern highway and expressway system providing easy access from Rome and Naples, excellent tourist facilities, broad, awe-inspiring panoramas, and the opportunity to take bracing walks make Roccaraso a favorite tourist destination in summer as well. Outside the town, the Cinque Miglia Plateau extends for about 9 kilometers. It is linked with the Abruzzese pastoral tradition par excellence, transhumance. As winter approached, immense herds and flocks left the plateau and moved south along the sheep tracks towards the tablelands of Puglia, in search of more hospitable locations and secure pastures, in order to survive the cold season, waiting to undertake the trek back with the new summer. For hundreds of kilometers, trails as much as 111 meters wide wound through the mountains and valleys, skirting fields and meadows. The area's characteristic dairy products reflect the pastoral tradition and the usages that were typical of daily life until just a few decades ago. Not far from Roccaraso, situated on the flank of the Cresta di Pietra Maggiore, along the road from Sulmona to Castel di Sangro, are Rivisondoli and Pesco Costanzo, spots known for their tourist appeal. While Rivisondoli is famous for the sacred performance of the living creche, Pesco Costanzo boasts the highest railway station in Italy after Brenner Station, and rests its appeal on the imposing Sant'Antonio forest its precious silver filigrees. And the delicate lace embroidery of its women. Extending peacefully in the Valle Peligna, Sulmona is a compulsory stop on our wanderings through the mountains of Abruzzo. And not just for the sugared almonds or liqueur made from aromatic herbs that by themselves would be enough to make any town famous. Few other towns in the region have a history as rich as that of Sulmona, which was already flourishing in the 3rd century after Christ. Sulmona is rich in monuments representing all periods of art history, including such architectural works as the medieval aqueduct of King Manfredi, the monastic complex of Badia Maronese, the church of which was founded in 1200 by Pietro d'Angelerio, the future Celestine V, the Pope of the Great Refusal, and the church of the Annunziata, to cite but a few examples. Sulmona, it is famous above all for having given birth to Ovid, one of the greatest Latin poets. A hinge between the Valle Peligna and the valley of the Pescara, Popoli is another town that was already flourishing in the Roman epoch. It is called the Key of the Three Abruzzos and is known for its gorges, which are imposing and ghostly in winter, pleasant and always windy in spring. Here, the Aterno River flows into the Pescara in the area called the Mouth of Hell, a point where the river disappears and then suddenly reappears a few hundred meters further along. Sought after by the Normans, the Swabians, and the Angevins, and finally the property of the Contelmo, Popoli still has substantial evidence of the past, such as the castle of 1015, the Palazzo Contelmo of 1400, and the 15th century church of San Francesco, which contains precious examples of religious art. Following the route that leads from Popoli to L'Aquila, we come to Bussi sul Tirino, a town of extremely ancient origin perched on a hill facing the valley of the Tirino River. The river is rich in trout and freshwater crayfish, while its sources, rising at an elevation of 1,400 meters, provide a pleasant destination for a charming walk. A few kilometers away, nestling among almond and olive groves, is Capestrano, a little town with a history extending back 3 millennia. It owes its fame to a great saint, San Giovanni di Capestrano, and to the warrior of Capestrano, whose mysterious gigantic bronze statue was discovered by chance in 1934. The statue is evidence of the level of civilization attained by the people of these places when Rome was still just a village of huts. Still further along is another singular town, Navelli, which is almost unknown outside the restricted confines of the region, except among lovers of saffron. Navelli is, in fact, the home of the yellow condiment used in risotto alla Milanese, which it would be more exact to call risotto all'Abruzzese, or better still, alla Navellese. But one cannot talk about the mountains of Abruzzo without dedicating particular attention to the national park that is both the region's symbol and its most precious gem. With an area of 100,000 hectares, encompassing mountains, rivers, lakes, springs, forests, and meadowlands, the park represents the ideal habitat for the preservation of rare plant and animal species that would otherwise be condemned to extinction. The heart of the park, and a genuine nature sanctuary, is the Camoshara area, which extends for about 2,000 hectares and is in large part covered by thick forest, the uncontested kingdom and paradise of the chamois of Abruzzo, the Apennine wolf, and the Marsican bear, which, despite its reputation for being ferocious and bloodthirsty, feeds above all on herbs and roots. Springs gush forth, and a variety of rivers flow down Camoshara's slopes, contributing to the richness of the environment and the charm of the landscape, as in this stretch of the valley of the Sagittario River. In addition to the rivers, the area also has important lakes, such as Lake Vivo and the artificial lakes of Montagna Spacata and Villetta Barea, which are another valuable source of water. Besides being a welcome natural oasis for its preservation of exceptional plant and animal species, the Abruzzo National Park is also a real paradise for visitors who love to rediscover nature on foot and experience its grandeur through direct contact with the environment. The plateaus, valleys, meadowlands, and mountains of the park, where cars and every kind of motorized transportation have been banned, offer a series of incredible itineraries on paths that wind for kilometers and kilometers through the most charming spots. This same, almost timeless atmosphere is also found in the park's towns, which have maintained their original characters thanks to tradition and rituality, not bowing to fashion or making adjustments for tourism. This is the mark of cultural vitality and a civilization that has remained true to itself, its values, and its origins. The world of Abruzzese folklore is full of typical characters and elements. Holidays and significant moments linked to religion and farming and pastoral traditions are celebrated with festivals and ceremonies. We cannot conclude this panoramic, even if bird's-eye view of Abruzzo without a glance at its cuisine, which obviously has been influenced by the region's pastoral traditions. Dairy products and meats that retain the aroma of high mountain pastures are the basis for a simple, tasty cuisine that is still tended with affectionate attention in homes and forms part of the professional baggage of countless great chefs who have learned their craft in the Chietino or the Terramano districts and carried outside their home region a tradition based on an inspired mixture of aromas and flavors, but above all, on the authenticity and goodness of the products. And so, have a nice vacation in the mountains of Abruzzo.